All right, hello everybody, my name is Charlotte, and for our crime prevention through environmental design or Cpted assignment, Emily and I will be talking to you today about design and structural changes that we would make to our selective buildings to maximize the prevention of crime to that building, as well as we're going to go through some Cpted principles that are already in place in our building that we can spot out. Okay, so I'm going to start us off with our residential building. The property that we are going to be taking a look at today is actually the townhouse that I live in. So the first element that we're going to take a look at is movement predictors. If you look at the bottom left photo, you will be able to see the path that leads from the front doors of the apartment to the parking lot, or from the parking lot to the front doors. While the path in place does direct the users to a safe route, the lighting on the path is problematic. So as you can see from the bottom left photo, the light post is pretty well camouflaged in the tree. The top right photo, or the top left photo is just kind of a blown up image. You can see that the white bulb that is on the light post is super camouflaged into the tree. So when the light is activated, as you can see on the bottom right photo, most of the light is kind of placed on the foliage above. And as you can see on the ground and on the pathway, the light is just casting all of the shadows from the tree on there. So it's actually not lighting up the path as it should. So there is another lighting problem with these lights that they actually use. As you can see from the top right photo, that is a light post that is just directly across from my apartment. You can see it is quite a yellow bulb, and it is also kind of being shadowed by the tree. So the first thing that I would do is I would make sure that all of the bulbs are white LED lights. Those ones are the ones that kind of maximize the ray that the light is casting, and it would make sure that the path is nicely well lit. I would also move the light post close to my apartment. I would just move it on the other side of the patio, or the other side of the path, so that the tree isn't a factor in the lighting process. I would also make sure that the lights are on a motion sensor. Right now that they're just on a timer, it goes off around, or the lights come on around 9 or 10 at night. But in the winter months, it gets dark around 4:30, so that leaves a lot of time where the pathway would be dark and not have light. So by having them on a motion sensor, that would just make sure that when anybody is in the parking lot or using the pathway, that it is nicely well lit, and that would just kind of maximize the Cpted principle of making sure that the pathway is safe and kind of deterring any crime from happening there. All right, so these next two photos are just of the side wall of my patio. So the first photo on the right is just a photo of the wall, and then the photo, or on the left, sorry, and then the photo on the right is of the window that is placed in the patio wall so that you can see from the pathway into the patio. So the next two principles that we are going to be applying is territorial enforcement and image and maintenance. If you look on the photo on the left, you will see that the wall of the patio is kind of showing the building's age. There are a lot of weathered marks, a lot of stains, and then as you can see on the photo on the left, if you look closely into the window, you can see a huge crack running from the window to the ground. So with territorial enforcement and image maintenance in mind, some changes that I would make is I would just, as a building, I would maybe just give a fresh coat of paint, try and get those stains off, patch any of the cracks. This just kind of enforces that this is a place where people take pride in their things, take pride in their space, and that would deter crime from happening here. And while the patio is kind of reinforcing that idea of the owner having a sense of property and having a sense of space, right now the materials that are being used in the patio isn't really maximizing Cpted principles. So what I would do is, the window that's in the patio is quite useless. It doesn't really give you a great view of anything. It's also quite low down, so when you're on the patio, you can't really see out of it. So what I would do is I would get rid of that window completely. I would rebuild the walls of the patio using a different fencing material. While it does give lots of privacy, as we have went through in our presentation with Brian, there are some disadvantages to having this type of fencing. One being if there was anybody doing any kind of criminal act or anything going on in the parking lot, you would not be able to see it while you're on the patio. Also, if somebody was behind that wall, you would not be able to see them either. The wall is also quite short, so while it does provide lots of privacy, somebody can literally look up and over your fence. So it really, like, altogether doesn't give you that great of privacy. So what I would do is I would change the fencing completely. I would either use maybe some plywood slats of fencing, or if you want to maximize the privacy, I really like the look of corrugated metal fences that have a mixture of the wood slats in. That would at least give you a little bit of a view to the parking lot while still maximizing the privacy of your patio. All right, so this photo is of the entryway into my kind of like my doorstep. So there are two things that we're going to be looking at here. We're going to be looking at the lighting and also the access control. So as you can see, when I moved in, me and my dad built a makeshift fence because for all of the patios in this building, they're totally open. There's no block or barrier between the front entryway that everybody has access to into your own personal patio space. So this is a problem with access control. So the first thing that I would change is I'd make sure that every patio had a nice locking gate. I would make sure it was high enough so nobody could look over or jump over. This one is mainly just to keep my dog in, but it also serves as protection against any theft or canvassing for theft. As you can imagine, people put way on their patio and store many different things on their patio. I have a barbecue out there. In the summertime, I have expensive summer furniture out there. So having a nice gate would definitely maximize access control and your own just safety of your property. The next thing that we're going to look at is the light above my mailbox. That light doesn't work. It's not hooked up to any like electrical outlet, so it's not like I can just change a bulb and have it work. So to change that, I would make sure that I would have a nice working light with an LED white light bulb. I would also use that as motion sensor just so that if anybody was at my front doorstep, the light would come on and I would kind of be alerted that there was somebody there. All right, so these photos are of the view from my patio doors into the patio, and then also just of one of the outside walls of the patio. So the first thing that we're looking at here is the picture on the left of the light. That light also is not connected to any electrical outlet and it doesn't work. So the first thing I would do is I would update that light, make sure that it's connected to electrical. I would put it on kind of like a dual system where I could flip a light switch on and it would be on for as long as the light switch was on. And I would also make it motion censored so that if there was anybody on my patio or just if my dog was out there at night, I would be able to see everything that was going on the patio. And I would also use an LED white light for that. The picture in the middle is just showing that, like I said before, there is literally no view of the parking lot, so changing the materials used for the patio walls would be a major benefit to your view and for kind of the surveillance of the neighborhood. If your neighbors can't see in to your patio and you can't see out, neither of you are going to be able to see if anything is going on that shouldn't be on either side of the wall. And then the third photo is just depicting how closely my upstairs neighbors are to my patio. So as a rental person, I have no idea the background behind my neighbors, and I also, you don't get to pick your neighbors. So to kind of maximize privacy of onlookers and people upstairs, I think it would be really nice to have kind of like a pergola above that gives you a little bit of a shaded area and protection from people above you, perhaps canvassing your patio and what you have on it. And it just kind of reinforces the Cpted principles of having your own space and maximizing your property's safety. So these last 3 photos here are just photos of my patio sliding doors. So as you can see on the photo on the left, that photo is taken where inside there are no lights on. So as you can see, when you're standing on the patio, you can't really see anything inside from the distance that I am. And then the photo on the middle, I have a few select lights on, and as you can see, you can kind of see a chair, you can see my couch, and you can see the light that's on. And then the last photo on the right is during the nighttime. So I'm on my patio at night. I have my lights on, the same lights on that were on in the middle photo, but because it's dark outside, this just kind of represents how much you can see. So the use of that gate that I was saying that should be put up, and also the use of a higher fence would be super necessary for just the safety of this property, because if somebody was on my patio and my light doesn't work on my patio, I don't have a gate, and the walls of my patio are quite short, if there was somebody on my patio, they would be able to see every single thing that I own and have in my apartment, and that is super problematic when you think of people canvassing neighborhoods to break into. I live in Sahali, and it is quite a busy area. There's a lot of foot traffic through my apartment because we kind of back onto Peterson Creek Park. So implementing a gate with a locking mechanism, higher patio walls, and also bright lights would just deter any crime from happening and possibly prevent my apartment from getting broken into.